I was just going to ask a couple things. One is, what do you do? And we have this from time to time. Some of our insureds, they just have very physically demanding jobs, and there really isn't anything that they can do. And that can be very frustrating. We have, steel erection companies and drilling companies and companies that do things at very high heights, and they just don't have a role for them. When you run into those situations, Chris, what do you do?
Reemployability is going to love me for this, but we use a company called Reemployability. They have a program called Transition to Work. What that basically does is it connects injured workers to the community while they perform light duty. And it overall, it reduces the claim duration and lowers our cost. To get more into the details, essentially what Transition to Work does is they place an injured worker in a nonprofit agency when the employer is unable to accommodate those restrictions. So it allows the injured worker to continue to get income while being reacquainted with the work experience. And it's also an extension of a return to work program, right? So it's retaining the injured worker's status with their company because they're continuing to get the wages. So what we see is we're having reduced costs in the claim because we're not paying lost time benefits because they're working through the transitional employment. But not only that, there's a lot more benefit to it from the social standpoint. You're promoting social responsibility, you're providing community outreach, and you're demonstrating goodwill by providing volunteer opportunities. And one of the questions we get a lot, Greg, is, well, what happens if we're a rural employer? How are you going to find somebody in this local area? Well, reemployability is in all 50 states, and they have a network of over 48,000 nonprofits. So they can get pretty dang creative on how they're going to be able to place people, right? They're going to meet us where we are and try to place them because they see the benefit and the overall outcome of the claim.
So there's a great saying that objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and it takes more force to start a stopped object moving than it does to keep a moving object moving. And I would say that applies very directly to workers' compensation injuries. Is we want to keep our injured workers moving. What we don't want is for them to be sitting on a couch watching TV. And I often call it the vacation syndrome when we everybody's had that week-long vacation that's amazing, and the last day of that vacation you're thinking about Monday going back to work, and you're like, oh. But then when you get back to work, and hopefully if you love your job like me, you see the people you work around and you're reminded why you like what you do once you show up on Monday, uh, you get back in the groove. And our injured workers, when they get out of that groove, they can get into a funk, and then it's really hard to get them going. So that this all makes a huge difference.